All right, so I just hit over 100 million streams as a trap producer, and I also managed to get free platinum records. And in this video, I'm gonna walk you through exactly how, so that you don't have to wait years to get a lucky break. Now, just to make sure that I'm just not some weirdo on the internet lying, here is my proof. So as you can see, 118 million streams, top 2% of producers. Now, when I started out, I had a few problems, which the first problem was that I only had access to very small artists, and it was a problem because they couldn't really make big records. And in order for me to be able to make this a career and get to these hundreds of millions of streams, I needed to be able to make big records. Now, the second problem I had was that I had no brand and no name, which also was a huge problem because that meant that I couldn't get big artists. Because I was just some kind of random no-name producer that even if I did reach out to people, they wouldn't even answer me to begin with. And even if I somehow managed to get people on my beats, then I ran into the problem that they just didn't like that. I would show it to them, they would ask me to play them again, they would ask me to go through multiple beats. Like I had one session where I literally played like 10, 15 beats and they all got turned down. Or I would send it over to them and they would get rejected. I would get ghosted or I would get completely ignored. And by the way, if you want a copy of this doc and to just learn more about getting placements and producing in general, then I'm going to be sharing this inside of my free community. So you can just click the link in the description to join in on that. But anyways, back to the value of this video. So what I needed to do was to figure out a way to grow my brand so that I could get big artists, so that I could get out of this trap where I couldn't work with really anybody and make any money from music. And I also needed to figure out how to, when I got these opportunities, actually make beats that people wanted to use. So the first thing I did was that I went ahead and I fixed up my profile. Now, fixing my profile is a part of the branding. And what I've seen that for a lot of producers, we overthink and we overcomplicate branding, especially in the beginning. Like, the most important part about branding, it's gonna be who you are as a producer and what you have actually done. So if you don't have any credits, you haven't really done anything, you don't have any experience, then that is gonna be a part of your brand and it's gonna be harder in the beginning. That's the real truth. Now, with that being said, what you can do in the beginning is to fix up your profile, maybe show off some beats, show off the few releases that you have, and look presentable and approachable. So that's exactly what I started with. Now, this isn't my initial version 1 profile. This is one that I made while I was actually a couple of years in. But as you can see, it's very simple. There's nothing advanced. There's no magic going on. It's just a few pictures of the releases that I had, one picture of me in the studio. That's it. Some lifestyle pictures, you can have that if you want. It's really not that deep. The only thing that you want to do is that you want to show off, you want to look like a person. You don't want to just be an anonymous beat maker with a bunch of black screen recordings everywhere, because that is just going to make it even harder. And then as you progress, then your profile is going to get better, because then you're going to be able to add credits. You're going to be able to, if you do a big song, you're going to be able to add that, and it's going to be more powerful. Because think of it like this. If, for example, Metro Boomin, it doesn't matter what he really has as his pictures, right? Like, he could just have basic pictures and he could send whatever message he wanted to whoever, and they would probably most likely respond, right? So that is the reason for the very simple kind of social media branding. It doesn't need to be more. What matters is just that you look all right, so that you can leverage this account to start getting connections and growing your brand that way. Now, the next thing is that, as I said, I started to network, because that is really the biggest thing here. That is how you not only grow your brand per se, but that is how you get the releases, you get the songs, and everything that, at least for me, a lot of people take different directions, but for me, networking has been the one thing that really made the biggest difference. So what I did was that I networked vertically. And networking vertically might sound super weird and super fancy or whatever, but it's actually really simple. It's just that I started where I was at. So I started with very small artists. I actually, in the beginning, I started with like friends, like my friends. That's what I literally started with. But then I started focusing on building real relationships with friends of big artists. And key word is real relationships. So no spamming, no like sending 1,000 DMs a day, the same copy pasted DM saying, hey, check out my shit. Like, it doesn't work. At least in my experience, it doesn't work. Because the real importance here is to focus on the relationships, because the relationships are what's going to last, and the relationships are what's going to give you the opportunities later down the line. Now, when I networked, it was a very, very simple process. Like, there was no advanced thing at all. So basically what I did was I would find a cool artist. By the way, I have no affiliation to this artist whatsoever. I don't know who this is. I just like his music. But basically what I do is I find a bigger artist. And with bigger artists, the definition, at least for me, what I would say is like anywhere from 500K monthly listeners upwards. That is like a bigger artist, in my opinion. Now, what I do then is that I'll simply like do some research. For example, I'd look at their following, like who they are following. I'd also look at who comments on their posts, because that's an indication that they got people that either they got fans, or also they got people that actually know them and commenting on their stuff. For example, here we got a guy has the same like IDY, so probably they know each other. And what do you know? He looks like an artist. And he got some stuff going for him. So super, super simple. It's just look at who is commenting, who they're following, and find people who you think that you could reach out to for where you're at in your journey. So if you're just starting out, you might go to like the smallest artist you could find. You might go there, you might start there, and then you go up from there. But the importance is just to find these artists and build the relationships with them. And this process was literally the same all the way through. There was no difference in where I was at in my journey. I would still follow this exact process. So for example, let's say we have this guy, let's listen to his music. I'm gonna share just that window so that you get the audio as well. So let's say that we wanted to reach out to this guy. Then what I'll do first is I'll go to his profile, just check out his stuff.
Set, then reset. Damn, I need a blood, I think.
Then let's say, like, for example, I really, really love his songs. Like, I just think it's wow, it's awesome. And that's also one thing I want to add. It's like, if you find an artist that you really don't like don't want to work with, then don't work with them, because it's going to show. And you're not going to be able to have a good collaboration anyways. Now, of course, if you're just starting out, beggars can't be choosers, all of that. Like, don't be too picky. But if you like genuinely hate somebody's music, might not be a good idea to hit them up and work with them, because we still want this to be genuine and we want to view it as if we're making friends. I would say that's the most helpful like frame of mind, at least for me, to be able to do this in an authentic and genuine way where you're actually providing value to people. Let's say we really like this one. Then what I usually do is, first of all, I'll try to get their attention before even messaging them. So, oh yeah, this is even better. So if they have a later post, the later post, the better. So then let's say
deep, you cannot be one of.
I like this one, then I'll probably go and like it. And if there's no comments, honestly, I'd put a comment down. Just because there's no comments, then he'd actually get that. So then I just say like something really simple, like this is too tough, whatever. Or I'd even do something more personalized, like perhaps quote him on something he's saying. Like if he's saying a nice quote, I'd do that. Just something to kind of get his attention to start. And then once I've done that and he responds to it, like if you never get a response, fine, reach out anyways, but it's not a big rapper, so would probably respond to it with either a like or a comment back. Then once you get that, go ahead and send him a message. When you're going about messaging people, again, super simple. You just want to make it personalized and make it relevant to them. So what I do is I just say something. For example, if I commented on that guy's song, I'll just mention the song name, like, hey bro, I just heard, I don't know what that was called, song name. I just say something like that. Fuck with, let's say, the vocals. Like you mentioned something specific. So, specific thing. Like you mentioned something specific. And then once you've done that, you go ahead and mention that you have beats that you think would be perfect for him. So ideally, you'd even send this in 2 messages. So I'll probably send this one first. Then I just say like, I've been making a lot of beats like that. I think I got some bangers for you. Whatever, like something like that. But then here's where what most people would do, but I do a little bit differently. So most people would just be like, hey, I think I got some bangers for you. I got some beats, etc. like that. I'll send them over. But the problem is with artists, we don't know exactly what they're on at the moment. Like artists, they change all the time. And just because they recently made a song that sounded in a certain way, it might not sound the same later. So I think I got some bangers for you. What type of vibe are you on right now? So that's a really important thing. Like we want to figure out what they actually want right now, because things change and they might want something else than they wanted last week. And if you then give them what they wanted last week, you won't get it placed. That is essentially the basic version of how to get artists, and it doesn't have to be more complicated than that. And of course, if you wanted to work with producers, you can do the same thing. You could even go to big producer accounts. And then, of course, we have the famous Genius method, which is probably the easiest one for producers, engineers, and people like that. So that's how I got the artist. Now, the next thing was that even though once I got the artists, I still had that problem of I got them in the studio, I showed them beats that I didn't want to use them. And the problem was that I was making beats that artists didn't want. It's that simple. And I feel like a lot of producers, we just make beats, we make beats without thinking of what the market actually wants. And not only the market, but what the specific person that we're working with right now actually wants. And that also messes it up, because if we can't match that, then we won't get it placed with that person. And it doesn't have to be complicated. What I found is that a lot of the time that we spend on sound quality and overthinking and even getting mixing plugins, trying to make everything perfect, a lot of that doesn't really matter. Like I've had sessions where I had the perfect beats, they all get denied, but then it's an imperfect one that gets placed. And the only reason it does get placed is because it matched the vibe that artist wanted in that moment. So the way I started going about this is by using references. And when I use references, I basically went through a pretty simple process, which is I get the reference, I then tap the tempo for the BPM to figure out kind of roughly what tempo-ish that it is. I'll also listen to it and really figure out the vibe. Like, okay, what am I hearing? Is it dark? Is it sad? Is it a mix? Really like listening to the vibe and get an understanding of the feeling of the beat, not just the sounds in it or the, I don't know, the fucking LUFs, or start measuring the waveform. Like, that's not how I typically use references. Then, in order to really nail that vibe, I'll usually look at the chord progression, because chord progression carries a lot of the vibe of something. So if you nail the chords, you're going to be able to nail the vibe. And if it doesn't have chords, you just figure out the scale and do something similar. That's at least what I did. Now, I used to believe that using references was unoriginal. And I thought that it was like I wasn't really producing type of thing if I were using references. But I learned that lesson to not be true when I made a certain track. I'm gonna just go ahead and show this to you. So basically what happened was that I had an artist, he was asking me for beats, and I gave him a beat, and he loved that beat. And he went on to make a song on it. That song went on to chart, and it's now platinum over here in Sweden. So it became a great song, and it was great for me and my career. However, what I didn't know was that he asked me he had sent over a bunch of references to me. I completely missed those references, and he asked me to do something similar. But I didn't know that. But I sent him a beat that was very similar, and it worked incredibly well. So I'm just gonna show you right here. So listen to this beat. And mind you, this was not done on purpose. That's the funny part about this.
Bitch, we in the city on that hot shit. Looking for a biddy on that thot shit.
That was his reference that he sent to me that I never heard. Literally never heard. Then I'm gonna go ahead and show you the track that I made that I thought was all original.
JB.
Like, you can hear the similarities here. It's very similar. Like, that wasn't even made on purpose. And that was a huge lesson I learned there, that I thought I was being original. I probably had, like, I've heard that other song before. I probably just, it went in my mind, I used it, but it turned out to be a great beat. And then what also happened was that if we look at the lessons in this story, is that, first of all, I could have just used that reference and I would have gotten the same outcome basically. And the main important thing here is that I made a simple and catchy beat that that artist wanted in that exact moment. That is why it worked. And then I started doubling down on that and I started using references more. And the goal when you're using references isn't to steal the song. Never should be. But the goal is to steal the vibe, steal the feeling, and make something new and unique in your own way, but that works. Because when you make beats that work, the songs will work. The artist will want them. So you give the artist what they want, and you give the market what they want. Now, the next thing is that even once you get artists, even once I made them beats that they wanted, made them beats that they liked, made them beats that inspired them, I needed to make sure that these connections actually led to more. Because not every connection is going to be the one that blows up your name, blows up a song, whatever. Not everybody's going to be that, and that's fine. But the way I found that is the best, or the way to make this like friend strategy work, is to over deliver to these artists. So the artists you get, you want to over deliver to them. Now, what does over delivering look like? It's easy to say, but what does it actually look like? First of all, one thing of over delivering is being fast. Like if they ask for a beat, they have it within a day or even within a couple hours. If they ask for, if they ask for maybe revisions, maybe you're working on a song together and they want to change something, you change it. You don't have an ego about it. You think about the artist's vision, because that's at the end of the day what we producers are there to accomplish. We want to bring that artist's vision to life in the best way that it possibly can be. So not only like working fast, but responding fast, making revisions fast, being speedy. It's insanely valuable. And I know how certain people, like I know for myself how tired you get when people are very, very slow, like engineers or other producers, or even artists for that matter. So speed is always very appreciated. Then the second thing is high quality beats, like making sure you make your best work. And when I say that, it's not only about making like, high quality in the terms of mixing or stuff like that, but high quality in the sense that the melody is amazing, it's super catchy, it grabs people's attention, the beat is well structured, the sound selection, even like the way you pick sounds, the way you arrange the beat, all of it serves a purpose, and all of it is there to make the artist shine. Like you want to be able to make the artist sound better on your beats than they do on other beats. And that is absolutely possible. And the way you do that is by, once you've done the song, you go in and start changing things and start fitting the arrangement and the sounds to the rapper. So you might switch out the drums because it fit them and their delivery better. You might add an extra counter melody to make it fit them better and make them shine. Stuff like that does wonders. And then also on that note, like providing high quality beats is also like going above and beyond. So when you're working with people, like do things they didn't ask for. You could be like, let's say they record it, they send you a snippet or whatever. You're like, hey, send that over, I'll mix it for you. Or if you're in a situation where you're in the studio with them, it could be things like top lining and writing. I did all of those things. Like if an artist got stuck and they're like, I'm not sure, I don't know what's gonna go on this song. I'm like, I got it. I get up and I start top lining and doing things on the record. So things like that really helps you build a strong reputation. And what's gonna happen is that once you get that strong reputation, people are gonna start recommending you. And people are gonna want to come to you. You're not just gonna be trying to get your stuff to people. People are gonna wanna come to you when you start building a strong reputation for yourself. And of course, a part of reputation building is the credits and placements that you have. But this is also how you get them, by really over-delivering and doing your best work with the people that you're working with. And speaking of that, that is also how you level up. So the goal, or not really the goal, but where I wanted to get to was that I noticed a very common pattern, which was that when producers worked with people who had like 150 to 250K monthly listeners, they would very often be able to make songs that blew up and became that artist's first big song. And I made that my goal. So what I did was that I always tried to level up. So I would work with, let's say I worked with an artist, he has 50K monthly listeners, he's connected to somebody. Either I would do such a good work with him that they would bring me more people, bigger artists, or I would just release songs with him. I know that the person's friends is going to see it, and then I reach out to them. So you always try to climb. And my goal was always to get to this point where I could work with these types of artists. And then once I did that, I made it my goal to make their biggest songs. So what I did here is a little bit different. I would still use references. I would still ask them what they wanted. I would do all of the over-delivering, but I added one extra thing, which is that I tailored the beats to what actually worked in the market and their style. So an example of this is that I would always analyze top 50 charts to figure out what was working, like what was trending in that moment. Because music is always changing. It's not going to be the same. I actually made a mistake once where I thought I knew everything and thought I had an understanding of music, but then it changed. So I did a couple duds because I didn't realize that the market actually changed. But the way I would go about this is I would spend around 60 minutes a day listening to top 50 charts. So I'm going to go ahead and share this right now. So what I would do is I would just play it from the start to finish, sometimes listen to the entire thing, sometimes skip through tracks depending on what I felt that day. Now, the reason I listen to this is to get an understanding for what's working. So what I would do is I'll just start at the top, and I wouldn't go as in depth at like, okay, which chord progressions are they using? Like I wouldn't sit at the computer and kind of analyze this. I would just internalize it. I would listen and internalize and think through things like, okay, what vibes do I hear? What drum patterns do I hear? Why do people like this? Like that's a great question to really ask yourself. Like, okay, why do people like this? And then I just listen through these songs. Like we can just listen to the top 5 songs now, and we're gonna start recognizing patterns already. So if I were doing this now, I would think like, okay, what kind of vibe is this? Okay, I get a little bit of summery vibe. It's kind of sad. Okay, what is making it feel that way? Okay, it's the sound selection. They got a kind of mellowed out guitar. It's also the chord progression that's what making it feel a little bit sad, but the sound is pretty like happy sounding because it's a bright guitar, so it gives it that balance. Like that's the kind of mind I would think this through to be able to internalize this. And then I would think through like, okay, what kind of drum patterns am I hearing? This is like kind of almost Afro drums. Then I would know like, okay, this is a trend right now, like Afro drums work. And then we got the 4 on the floor kick. And when you start doing this daily, you're gonna learn a lot. It's, I know that I said this the last time, but it's like the 5 friends you spend the most time with, that's who influences you. It's like the music you spend your time listening to is gonna influence you. With that being said, don't take it to the extreme and only listen to this, because you're gonna hate it, or at least I did. And you're actually gonna lose out on a little bit of creativity, because you only hear like the same songs over and over again, because some of them stay there. So I would recommend like 60 minutes a day do this. But that's the first song. We could hear some patterns. And if we go to the next one, same drum pattern. A little bit of different vibes, but same drum pattern. This is more of a party vibe. But then we know, okay, that works. But this isn't like super party, yay, but it got a cool feeling to it. And if we go to the next one, again, this one is more aggressive. Okay, why is it more aggressive? Well, it's the melody, the sound selection. So that's basically what gives it that more aggressive vibe, and the way that they did it. They're using more minor scales, and I mean the others were using minor scales, but this is, I think, Friggin or something like that. No music theory genius. But anyways, they're using darker melodies, other sound selection. And if we listen to the drum pattern, same drum pattern again. So that is how I would be able to figure out what actually worked at that particular moment by breaking down and analyzing the top 50 charts. Now, which chart you go to depends on where you're at. So if you're in the US, you'd probably listen to the US top 50. If you're in Sweden as me, I would listen to Sweden and the countries that I knew influenced Sweden. So I knew that French music had a big influence on Swedish music. And I also knew that, for example, UK music had a big influence. So I'd listen to those. And if you're in like a more niche genre like underground rap, which isn't charting, you can still do this. But then you would listen to like the biggest artists in that genre and their top songs to kind of get that understanding. And when I did this, that is how, by doing this, I was able to then internalize this, take this into sessions with artists, and make their biggest songs, which I've done a couple of times now. The outcome here is that, first of all, I built a strong reputation in my scene. And if you follow these things, you'll be able to build a strong reputation in whichever scene you choose to pursue. And I also provide a lot of value and made big songs. Actually, I was able to make multiple top 50 records, eventually 9 of them. That is by following these principles. Now, again, I was able to reach over 100 million streams, 3 platinum records, and getting artists actually reaching out to me. Now, if you want help with something similar and you want to go down the route that I did, I currently opening up doors again, and I have 5 spots to work with me one-on-one to help you go full-time with music and make anywhere from 3 to 10K a month. So if you're curious about that, there's a link to apply in the description, and you'll get on a one-on-one call with me. We'll see if it's a good fit and take it from there. So back again to the value. Now, if I were to summarize all of this in like a lessons learned, is that first of all, always make beats that artists actually want. And if you need to, you don't always have to, but if you need to, use references. Like, don't guess. Like, why make it harder than it needs to be? Then the second thing is that don't waste time trying to blow up tiny artists. Like, don't spend your time there, but instead aim for small but connected artists and big up-and-coming artists when you can. Because unfortunately, it's very hard to know which artist is going to work, because it's a 50-50 thing. And you don't know what they're doing with their time, how they're spending it, if they're taking all the steps necessary to market themselves, if they're actually trying. And you can't control that, but what you can control is actually who you work with. Third thing is to over-deliver like crazy so that artists get addicted to working with you and you keep working with them and you make a lot of songs with them. Then lastly, study what works and blend it with whatever style you have and whatever style they have. So figure out what actually works and then do it in your own way. And then lastly, the last thing is just consistency and a strategy always beats waiting for a lucky break. And that's all I had for this video. Thank you for watching.